Make an offering to the teleport gods and come on down to SLB Awesome and start your quest today. It's gonna be legendary.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our last in a series of town hall events here at SL22B. I am Mischievous Mole. I have the pleasure of being here today with many of my fellow moles who work in the Linden Department of Public Works. And we are here to answer some questions. So before we get started, I have some things to cover. First of all, I am Mischievous Mole. Sitting next to me is Squeaky Mole. He is in charge of the stream, and I was supposed to ask something. Can everybody hear me? I see Astonish can hear me. Can someone on Astound say they can hear me? And someone on Imagination say they can hear me. See, I'm so excited to be here. I just forgot that. All right. Okay. So, as I said, my name is Mischievous Mole, but that's a lot. That's a mouthful. So people call me Missy. Next to me is Squeaky. Squeaky is in charge of the stream, so he's not going to be able to talk today, but the two of us are in cahoots organizing this whole thing. So I wanted to make sure that he was sitting here even if he wasn't talking. In the front row, we also have Patch, who was here earlier this week and is the Senior Vice President of Product Operations, Customer Support, and Trust and Safety, and also Izzy Linden, who is our creative producer. Both Patch and Izzy we work with on a daily basis, so it's great to have them here with us. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let some of the moles who have, quote, volunteered to speak introduce themselves and let them tell you what it is they do for the Linden Department of Public Works. All right, we'll start with Patch. I know he'd like to say hello to everybody.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm the Senior VP of Product Operations, Customer Success, and Trust and Safety. And I am responsible for wrangling all of the fine folks that we have up here on stage and some more who couldn't make it, known as the Moles. The team loves and enjoys working on all the content and such that we produce for everyone to consume, also our experiences and such, things like those house stuff, the house stuff that we do. What was it called? Linden Homes. Those, yes. So yeah, we have a lot of fun doing our Linden Homes projects and other exciting things.
We're very lucky to have you here with us again today, Patch. I'm glad. I know that you have a lot going on your calendar every day, so I'm really glad that you were able to come and spend another hour or two with us today. Izzy, would you like to say a word?
Word.
Who are you? Where are you from?
I'm Izzy Linden, a creative producer here in the Linden Department of Public Works, working with all of the moles on the various projects that we do, varying from the Linden Homes and the holiday programs and things like this little event called Second Life Birthday that we have every year that just amazes me each and every time. And I get the really fun job of just watching what this absolutely fabulous bunch of individuals does and exceeds my expectations time and time again.
And we always enjoy hearing from you, Izzy, because you always say such nice things about all of us. You keep us smiling.
And you
So we
said that just
appreciate
like I
that.
paid you to say it.
I know. Well, you can slip me a 5 under the table that isn't here. All right. The second row, I've got 5 people, and we will start with Alada. Introduce yourselves to us, Alada. Tell us, where you're from and what do you do as a mole?
Well, I'm from South America. I've been part of the moles for 7 years now, and I have taken quite different turns in here. Like, I've been part of different obligations to do as a mole, but right now I'm in the QA department, and I also take pictures sometimes. But yeah, mostly that. Just making sure everything is good.
Yes, you do a lot of things. Predominantly QA, but every time I turn around, you're helping with something else. So you are a jack of all trades, which is actually what I think a lot of the moles are. And I do want to point out that Alada, Squeaky, and myself, we all joined in the same week 7 years ago. They've both already had their res day this week. My res day is tomorrow. So we've got a little collection here. And Itza is next, and she also had a res day this week.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, that's correct. I've been 5. I could take off my diaper. Well, I'm from Europe. I'm Dutch. You probably can hear it. I'm doing a lot with the Linden homes, doing the decoration around it, the trees, the rocks, the flowers. That's basically where I come in with my work.
And you're very properly attired for what you do.
Thank you.
Abner, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Abner Mole. I have been with the LDPW for 17 years. My res day was actually yesterday. Mostly I build the roads, laying out Linden homes in Bellis area, building out the continent, helping people with learning about and following the covenant, working on the welcome hub. I also will occasionally make videos and doing voices and audio, like some of the ads you've probably been hearing over the stream here at SLB. And generally just being a pain in Izzy's butt.
Too true.
I can't really comment on that. But I do like it when you say your name out loud, because then I get the full effect of you being abnormal.
Yeah, it takes people a while to get that sometimes, but it's really glorious when I can hear them or see them actually make the connection and go, oh.
So are you a fan of Young Frankenstein?
I have been for years, yes. Very much so.
All right, Star, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I am Star Mole, and I have been a mole for almost 4 years. I am mostly a content creator, and I make mesh and animations and stuff like that.
And I think that you'll be talking to us a little later about that more in detail, some of the tools that you use in your Animesh crafting. So that'll be exciting. And finally, we have Bree. I'm not going to attempt her name. Bree, please introduce yourself.
Bree is perfect, and I have been fortunate enough to be a mole for the last 2 years. I think I may be one of the youngest moles up here. My primary role in this team is in content creation, and that can take all sorts of forms. I've worked on everything from this year's birthday crown and scepter to Swaginator prizes, landscaping plants, and even the occasional bridge. It really just depends on what's needed at the time. One of the things I enjoy most, though, is the variety. No two projects are ever quite the same, and there's always room for a bit of whimsy in the things that we get to build.
Well, I remember you coming on just about this time 2 years ago. Maybe you came on in April or May, because I remember Squeaky throwing a lot of birthday work at you when we found out how fast you were.
I love birthday work. It's probably one of my favorite times of the year here.
It is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of content that is created around it. So thank you to everybody who has helped pull this together. Up here, you see a lot of them. Not everybody, but a lot of them. And everybody had a hand in this wonderful birthday that we're all celebrating today. Well, this whole week. All right. So what we did was we opened up to the population, the residents, to ask questions. And all week we've been going through those questions with the different Lindens who have been here talking to us. And people also had questions about the moles. So we're going to go through some of the community submitted questions. And one question that came up that I thought was really interesting, because everybody has their own story, is what originally brought you to Second Life, and then how did that journey evolve into becoming a mole, or in the case of Patch and Izzy, how did you become Lindens? So I can start. I was actually in a postgraduate program in educational technology, and someone mentioned Second Life to me as a place that I might be interested in doing research on adolescent identity. And that's how I got involved in Second Life. I came in to do research and stayed. Patch, I don't know that I know how you got involved in Second Life. Would you like to share?
Well, once upon a time, long, long ago. Okay, I'll spare you that. I don't know. So I was playing a fairly popular space-based MMORPG back in the day. I've been playing it for many years, and a certain studio that owned it made some detrimental changes to its gameplay, and the few of us who kind of played it together were looking for something new and something different to do. Yes, galaxies. And I was driving to work one day, listening to a local radio talk show host, and they mentioned, him and his co-host mentioned Second Life, and kind of went on describing their own antics and such in it. And it's like a serious, like, news radio talk show host too, of all things, and also how they had just seen it on The Office, I believe it was at that time. And I was like, well, okay, this sounds kind of sandboxy. Galaxies was very sandboxy in nature, and I said, I'll go try it out. So I did, and that's kind of where it all started.
See, everybody has a story. This is what I love hearing about these things, all the different ways that people came. Izzy, what about you? How did you stumble into Second Life?
Always been here. No, back in my former life, I had a regular job, and I'd heard about, this thing called Second Life. And so I was like, oh, I have to go check that out. And real life kind of caught up with me, and so it didn't happen. And then one day I was at home at my laptop, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and check it out. And saw that it had a download, started the download, and my life in Second Life and my life as a Linden almost happened simultaneously, because as it was downloading and installing, I saw this, you might be a Linden. And I went, really? What's a Linden? Saw a couple of things that I decided, what, I'll apply for. Didn't really think much about it. Was checking out Second Life. And within, I think it was 2 months of me putting in the applications, suddenly I was a Linden and on the concierge team back when we were 24/7, which was a wild, wild ride. And I have not looked back since. Have loved every minute of it. And I really love now, getting to work with all of you guys.
Have you been a Linden, Izzy?
What was that? How long?
How long? You might have said that, and I...
That took almost 18 and a half years.
Wow. So you got in very early on, too. What, 2007? 2008?
February of 2007.
I'm only slightly older than you on my resident. All right, Alada, how did you find Second Life?
Well, I'm gonna simplify it because it's actually a long answer question. but the main reason when I decided to join Second Life and try it out, there was two aspects that drew my attention. The first one was because I was in a very weird place because of many reasons in real life, and I wanted to see if online I could find people that fit with the same mentality of mine, so it would feel like less like the odd piece of where I live. And so then was also the creative aspect, because from everything that existed out there that was social wise, nothing could have the freedom that you could feel in Second Life with how much you could make it. Like anything that was in your head, you could just make it in Second Life kind of thing. And to me, that made the deal for later falling in love with Second Life.
So when you came to Second Life, you must have found some people of a similar attitude that encouraged you to stay?
Yeah, because you know how sometimes you feel like too weird for certain things, right? So I think that in Second Life, it felt more like you could find people with the same, train of thoughts of things, like with same ideas, same likes, and you feel like you could connect to some things, and so
yeah, I understand. So sometimes you're in a community and you don't have anybody to really be snarky with. It's how did you come to Second Life?
Well, that was actually very funny. I didn't play any games. I didn't like games. I didn't like a computer. I was really one of those that was only interested in the television and walking with the dog and things like that, and not sitting on a chair and just behind a laptop or a computer. No, not for me. Anyway, I had a friend and he was in Second Life and he said, why don't you come and join it? I'm sure you're gonna like it, which I did. And the first moment I landed in Second Life, and I landed where they had an event going on, and I was straight away absolutely hooked. And now I'm doing it as a job. So, I mean, Second Life, it's really... it opened my eyes personally. It opened my eyes in a way with how you can have connections with people you don't see, but who you really care about. And yeah, Second Life has become a real big part in my life.
So it's really interesting because you said you are not technological, you are not a computer person, yet your friend convinced you to give it a try. So congratulations to that friend. And
yeah, we're still friends.
So is he still in Second Life?
Yes, he's still in Second Life. Yep.
Well, we're very glad that you decided to give it a try, and I'm not at all surprised that you found that this was a wonderful place to spend time. Abner, how did you find Second Life?
Yes, well, I was always kind of a gamer. I would play like flight simulators and first-person shooters and MMOs, and I also listened to a lot of podcasts. And I think about 2005 5, I was listening to, I think it was Leo Laporte back in the day, talk about his foray into this cool new virtual world called Second Life. So I gave it a try, and I made some friends, did some things, but then, see, I was always the kid who dumped all the Lego bricks on the floor and just took them where my imagination would take me, and so I started building things in Second Life, and that's what really got me hooked. And in fact, I think one of my greatest moments was I was watching one of Torley's videos, and I saw he had something on his island in the background that I had made, and I completely geeked out. I was like, "Oh my God, Torley bought something for me!" And then I went, "Wait a minute!" And then I checked my transaction history, and Torley never actually bought anything from me. And that's when I realized that Lindens can sometimes be sneaky. But not long after that, I heard about this LDPW thing that just started, and I applied, showed Michael Linden some of the things that I had made, and here we are 17 years later.
Yes, you are completely hooked, right?
Yes. I think it's official now.
I think so. Star, how about you? How did you find Second Life?
I think I first saw Second Life on CSI on the TV.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like you, I was involved in educational research. And that is what made me enter Second Life properly. And we were working for a university in Second Life. And then I learned more about building, and I had no experience of building in the beginning, and communities, and enjoying very much the different aspects in Second Life. And then I guess I was building with prims and mega prims and flexi prims for a few years, and then I taught myself Blender, and I guess I didn't really even know about the moles until maybe 10 years ago, and in the last sort of the years after then, I thought that would be nice. That would be nice to be a mole. And it was very exciting to apply to become a mole, and yay! I was accepted. So, that's my story.
Well, I'm glad you shared that, because I know some of the things that you've made as a mole, and not knowing what your history was, I'm like, oh, she's trained. She's professionally trained. She went to university for this. So it's very comforting to me and inspiring to know that you basically taught yourself Blender, because I've tried to teach myself Blender several times, and I have full of donuts and hats to prove that. Maybe one day I'll advance beyond that.
I hope so. I learned everything from YouTube.
YouTube is great. YouTube is great. Bree, tell us your story.
Well, I was not like others here, I guess. I was never really a gamer before Second Life. I came to Second Life 18 years and 4 months ago, but who's counting? At the time, I was a strategy partner at a large multinational consulting firm, and I was part of a team looking into how platforms like Second Life could be used for business applications to showcase product development ideas for our clients. Somewhere along the way of doing all of that, I started exploring Second Life personally, and I just fell in love with the creative freedom that it offered. In the early days, I was working, of course, just with prims and learning how to do what we called prim torturing at that point, which was twisting and shaving and doing all sorts of things with prims that you would never imagine that you could do with a simple cube. So my early experience in building was with flexies and prim torturing. And then that just evolved into learning how to do mesh, and learning how to texture. And one thing sort of led to another. What's kept me here all these years is the combination of creativity, continuous learning, and the meaningful friendships that I've developed through the years here as well. All in all, Second Life to me is an incredibly rich and rewarding part of my life.
Well, I think that you are the perfect person to kind of conclude that line, because you kind of wrapped up, you put the period on what everybody else has said here. It's just it's a wonderful place to be, and however we discovered it, we're really glad that we did, and we're glad that we stayed. And Squeaky has something to say as well, so he's so excited about this question that he's tried to get his microphone to work. So everybody cross your fingers. He's going to tell us his origin story. It is. Oh, Squeaky. They can't hear you. Nobody can hear Squeaky? All right, well, we'll circle back around. We'll try again in a little bit, because now I'm really interested, and I want to know what the story is. So everybody remind me, we'll come back and before we wrap up at the end, and we'll see if Squeaky has gotten the microphone fixed. All right, like I said, we do have a lot of questions, and I've already blown through 30 minutes, so let's see. One of the questions is, what has been your most fulfilling project personally as a mole, and why? Abner, you've been here the longest for us moles, so you've obviously worked on a lot. What's your answer to this?
Oh, I think I would have to say Belissaria, the new Linden homes. Taking part of what people like about the mainland and combining it, like it being a huge contiguous explorable landmass, and then combining that with some of the things they kind of prefer about private estates, where things are a little less Wild Westy, and creating something that people can really appreciate and enjoy. And it took everything that we had learned over the years in the LDPW, bits and pieces from a lot of things from previous projects, and put it all into that. And we built a continent and connected most of the other continents with it, at this point, and that's just, it's massive, it's huge, and it's really kind of satisfying.
It's very impressive from someone in the LDPW who has not worked on Belissaria a lot. I feel that I can say it's quite impressive. Star, what have you really enjoyed creating as a mole?
I think making animations for the Motown. because that's like huge. And I'm also a musician. So Motown is wow. And I think it may be very different, I think, in terms of a fulfilling, but I was very proud to be making Motown dances. That's crazy.
That's pretty big time, isn't it?
Right?
Bree, do you have a project you want to share?
Sure. Maybe it's because we're in the middle of birthday celebration right now, or maybe because I started at birthday time. But I'd have to say, for me, the projects I've contributed to SLB over the years have been some of the most personally fulfilling. These are the kind of creations that tend to reach a large part of our Second Life community, and that really matters to me. So I've had the honor of creating the time capsules a couple of times now, which is a very meaningful tradition. And if you're exploring this year's celebration, I hope you'll enjoy the snow globe that's tucked into the Swaginator hunt. Knowing that these creations might give somebody a smile or become perhaps a part of a memory for someone, that for me is what makes our work fulfilling.
I agree with that too. Itza, did you want to share?
Yes, I do. It's absolutely everything I do for SLB. Absolutely everything. It's of course decoration work because that's what I do as a mole, but seeing everything coming together and how everything looks and being in the team as one with the creators, with the creator moles, it's just like, it's for me like magic when it all comes to life and I can then just do my little bit, and it's absolutely lovely. I absolutely love everything SLB. That's each year I say the same, this is the best. So I'm saying it now again, this is the best SLB.
Hear, hear.
So what you're saying is that this is the best one, and next year we have to even top this one.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we're going to top it, definitely.
No pressure. Second Life is a global platform. There are residents from all over the world, and there are also moles from all over the world. And one of the questions that came in, how does your cultural background influence the work you do in World? And I'm going to ask Abner because he had something to say about this.
I did.
You
Well,
did?
I do, but I didn't know that you did. That you knew that. Okay. And I think for me, it actually kind of goes the other way to a large extent. Second Life, being a global platform, and the work that I do here, has actually had a huge impact on me culturally, rather than necessarily the other way around. I think I've become more open to learning and interacting with people from different cultures and perspectives just by being here. I mean, I'm working with people from all over the globe. I know people from all over the globe, and I think it's kind of a two-way street thing.
Daniel Sell. Daniel.
I'm sorry. I apologize. So I am actually talking to my brother at the same time because every time I hang up on him, he calls me back. So let me tell him, Daniel, I'll call you back. And now back to the conversation that we're having. So thank you, Abner. Thank you for saying that. I do think that you're right. I think that coming here and being able to interact with people from all over the world really allows us to expand our just our understanding of the world. It's one thing to say that we're a global community, but when you're just surrounded by people who are all like you, all think like you, all talk like you, then you're not really challenged. But here in Second Life, you have the opportunity to interact with people from all over the world. And so you get to test that out and kind of reinforce that.
Yeah, kind of break out of your bubble.
Yep.
Is what it really does.
Exactly. All right. There were questions here about what kind of software do the creators use? How do you learn? Did you teach yourself? And Star has touched on this. She said that she learned Blender and she taught herself from YouTube. So I basically just answered that question. But just in general, Star, is there anything you want to add to that? Not really a how to become a mole necessarily, but how to maybe become a better creator in Second Life.
Yes, I think many people, it is difficult. Let's not pretend that Blender is not difficult. It is difficult, but it's difficult for all of us. And so we are all in the same boat. And I think that if you keep practicing, if you keep doing it, you will learn it. It is very difficult to start, and I hear many times people saying that I try with Blender, and I can't. Yes, you can. I did from nothing, from watching YouTube, watch the tutorials, find something that you want to make, and follow the tutorial. Also, these days we are moving into Substance Painter, where before we were using perhaps Photoshop, and I think we still are using Photoshop, some people. I use GIMP. It is open source free software, as is Blender. So there is no excuse. All right, Substance Painter is expensive, but you don't have to use Substance Painter to be a creator, but it is becoming the way to create textures for 3D objects. And so, yes, I think if you want to become very, very good with creation, you need to use the tools, but you can also create using simple tools, using free tools. And I think also it is important to just keep trying. Me too, I try use Blender and it is very difficult and I give up. And then I try again and I give up. And I try again and I give up again and I hate it and I throw it across the room. But eventually you've made something. And you learn along the way. And also there are different versions and it might surprise people, or it won't surprise creators, that I am using an old version of Blender and a new version of Blender. Many versions of Blender. And you do not have to, some people might think, oh, I'm using 2.79, I'm no good. You're okay. And what is important is that you become flexible at learning the interface. So what I want from this is to inspire people who think they cannot do it because they can. I am encouraging you.
And you're living proof, right? Because
Right.
you said that you came and you didn't know these programs.
Absolute. I built with prims and flexi prims, etc. And when I literally learned everything from YouTube.
Well, I was in Second Life for a couple of years before I built anything. And that didn't really bother me. I didn't have a problem with that. But then one day someone inadvertently challenged me by saying that I couldn't build something. And so then I figured out how to build something. And I really think that the key to me building with prims is the same thing that's the key to me building with, or anybody building with Blender or Maya or any external software. You have to have something you want to build. It's very difficult if you're just going in and you're like, well, I'll just start with a tutorial of a donut. The person can only make so many donuts and they're only so exciting. You need to really be inspired to want to make something, and then you can jump in there and find tutorials that allow you to make like a donut house that goes up in flames. And then you've learned a whole bunch of skills.
Exact. And I think obviously with clothing and stuff, there are slightly different tools. That is not my area of expertise, but I know if you want to be making clothes, you can do it in Blender. But also Marvelous Designer and some people using Maya. But I think it is absolute possible to make good things in Blender and even just GIMP.
Well, that's also very encouraging because GIMP and Blender are both open source, so anybody can use them. There isn't a financial restraint necessarily that is to some of these name brand softwares like Maya or Photoshop. All right, but we should move on. That's my role here. I'm supposed to keep us moving, and I start talking with you and I'm like, this is really interesting. I have a question, and this one is for Alada. How do moles balance creative freedom with design consistency, especially when building large-scale themed areas like Belisaria?
Well, I think the key is that when it comes to our stuff, it doesn't matter what kind of project it is. It goes in through different departments, so it's not just like one person makes something and that's it. Nobody else sees it or anything. So it goes like between all the creators seeing the same stuff, going to the one that is planning the project, going to pre-QA, they go into QA. So there's many different people that goes into either their input or the specifications that it needs to have. Obviously, through the years, we have found several stuff that needs to be like priorities for each different thing of project we go, because everything has like a different requirement. That fine-tuning in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the key is data. It's not just one person. It goes through all the different departments and it feeds from each one. And that's how everything comes together. I think like that part of like imagining like every piece going and making because everything is like a puzzle, right? So you have to imagine that part. So there's people there is in charge of that. And so yeah, I think that's the key about it.
Yes, that it's really a collaboration, and that's how we're able to do such large-scale projects, because no one person is needing to be responsible for doing every single thing.
Yeah.
That also seems, Patch, that's a good question for you. If you want to weigh in on that, I don't want to keep you from being able to say something about that. Because if there is one person who kind of oversees everything, it is you. You are the one who comes up and okays the different themes for, say, Linden Homes. So you help balance creative freedom and design consistency. I might have caught him off guard.
No. It was taking a second to unmute for some reason. Well, yeah, I mean, I do, to your point, I do oversee a lot of the creative kind of direction and everything that the team, I'm going to say experiences isn't the right word, walks through. I do a fair share of creative brainstorming, and I like to involve, everyone on the team to do so as well. So, I feel like we kind of democratize it in a way where, no idea is left behind. Not every idea makes it into everything we do, but I also know that it was mentioned earlier, and it might have been Bree, talking about all of the little things that we do, and we try to put in little embellishments and delightful things and surprises and such, and we work that in as much as we can. So everything that we do, whether it's Linden Homes, building the experiences and the infrastructure for things like birthday, other events that we've created over the years, games, things of that nature, it's all had everyone's impression on it at some point.
Yes, and that's true. And I'm just thinking even about the birthday, which Squeaky and I kind of organize and keep the ball rolling. But there's so many people working on it that there are like these little Easter eggs all over the place, little almost signatures of things that residents can find as they visit the regions that are like little stamps that say, I was here. So I think that you're right, Patch. Everybody very much has the opportunity to contribute, but it's also very important at the end of the day to have someone who is that big picture person who can see it from a distance. And you do an excellent job of heading the ship for us and making sure that we know where we're going. And then you kind of leave the how we get there up to us. Talking about ships, I will swing back around to Abner because there is a question here that I think is probably very logistics oriented that he will be able to attempt to answer anyway. What challenges are there to making all the waters around Second Life continents navigable by seagoing and air vessels?
Well, I can't speak to the mainland continents. Those are more the realm of the Lindens on the land team. But as far as Belisaria goes, there are innumerable challenges. Most involve simply finding space and routes that make sense. I try to make them as wide as I dare and create a flow as much as I can that makes sense from the traffic sort of perspective, while trying to keep it from being too much like a simple grid. And that's really hard to balance. I tried to do that as much as possible in Belisaria and adding little things like I've even done little things like put the little buoys, with the flag on the water to mark the point where the four corners, just to make things a little easier for people. And that's something that just kind of evolved naturally as we were building them out. But we're always trying to think of the residents and how they're going to use these things as we're doing things like that. But we still have so many considerations, like having enough homes on the region. Where can I thread in a road or a seaway? Does a path even make sense in this location? Where is it going? What's it going to connect to? And all the while we're thinking about how it's going to look from the perspective of the person in the houses nearby. You know, everybody wants the mountaintop home with a beach, and no neighbors. And if I could give them that, I would. But there are realities and limitations that we have to consider when building the regions and around the regions. And but our goal has always been to give residents as much as we can within the limitations and requirements and the content that we've been given. It is a challenge. It very much is.
Kind of building on that, what is one thing that most residents don't realize about what it takes to bring a mole project to life? Because a lot of times residents do ask these things, and it seems very simple to them. Like, why can't you just move this tree? Or why can't you just, open up my view? Or so can you speak to that?
I can. And usually it's things like, like you said, like people will offer suggestions or questions like, why don't you build a bridge from Satori to Belisaria? Or why don't you connect the waterway between Sansara and Belisaria? And sometimes the answer, the simple answer is, if we could and it made sense, we actually would have done that already. The reasons why not usually involve things like this person does, or they involve things that the person doesn't necessarily realize or isn't considering, usually because they've never tried to build something like that themselves. But, a little river connecting two bodies of water seems like a no-brainer when you look at it on the map, until you realize the water levels on those two regions are 50 meters different in elevation. Or a long causeway sounds nice, until you're in a boat and you have to try sailing under or around it. And that just makes things become immensely more complicated, to the point that they really kind of no longer make sense. And there's actually a post in the feedback portal about that very thing, and there was a comment by, I want to say it was Aletta Mondragon, who summed it up very perfectly in her response, actually. So, but, it's kind of like, it's easy to look on the map and say, hey, it'd be great if this should be connected to that. It should be easy, but it's quite another thing once you understand all the ins and outs and whether we actually can, or really even if we should. Because like I said, the answer to both of those questions, if the answer to both of those questions is yes, we probably would have done that already. If that makes any sense.
Yes, I think it does.
Okay.
So basically what you're saying is that a lot of times a lot of thought and planning goes into all of this, and things that might seem very obvious probably were obvious, and you thought about them. And then you decided that was not feasible. It's not that you just didn't see it.
No, absolutely not. I mean, if you look in the real world, if you look at the island of Sicily, if you look on the map, there should be a bridge. It's like, why is there no bridge? Why did nobody think of that? Well, they've been wanting a bridge there for centuries, and in fact, they're now doing it because only now has it become technically possible to build a bridge there.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of come into the same thing. It's like, we've wanted to do that too. It's just not something that we necessarily we've looked at it, and we probably, it's not really as easy or as beneficial of an idea as one might initially think.
Yes. Well, I think that answer hopefully gave some people some insight into the process, and helps people understand that we are happy to hear suggestions, but they aren't always executed because they are often things that have been thought about before.
Right. If you have thought of it, I can almost guarantee, and we do want to hear it because maybe we haven't. But if it seems like it's something that should be that obvious, I guarantee one of us has already thought about it and looked into it, and it's been bantered around and considered, and it just can't really, it doesn't really work that way. You know what I mean?
Patch, I have a couple of questions that really kind of, I think, focus on you. One of them is, of course, people want hints about upcoming themes and features and mole projects that are on the agenda for the coming months, which, either we don't know or we can't talk about, but you definitely would be able to make decisions on what you can and cannot say. And then the other part of that is, if you could greenlight a dream project in Second Life and it didn't have a budget, it didn't have time limits, do you have something that you would love to see us be able to do?
That's a good one. Well, I mean, I already kind of mentioned this on Monday, but for those of you who may have missed it, I did mention the name of our next home theme that's going to be coming up, and it's Ridgewood Enclave. And it is going to be a Premium Plus theme. We have, I think, 10 Premium themes and 4 Premium Plus themes now, so we need to kind of keep going with increasing the numbers there. I also mentioned that, we're going to continue doing updates to past themes and such, and that's going to be touching various areas such as, PBR updates and floor plan additions, more homes and such. And we have another theme also planned on deck for the end of the year. To also be launched. In between there somewhere, probably closer to the launch of the next theme, we're going to potentially take our first foray into actually releasing commercial. Some of you may remember that actually from the beginnings of the project. We had always had the intent to do that. And I think kind of like what was just recently mentioned, we'd wanted to do it, and we had technical limitations and such that were in place that we're actually solving finally. That will allow us to move forward with a project like that. So stay tuned for more on that. It'll come after the homes themselves. What else is going on? What else would I do? I think if I could wave a magic wand and pick something to do, I would probably want to go back and revisit some of our games and maybe even do some more games or new games and such. And this specifically would be for user experience stuff, so that we can potentially facilitate and help solve for probably one of the big question that's always asked by a lot of users coming in is, well, what is there to do in Second Life? Well, games. We can make games. That'll be fun. And it's not on the table right now. But if the opportunity were to avail itself, I think I would probably kind of return to some of our roots of storytelling, questing, games, and making fun things to do.
Well, I think that sounds exciting. So I hope that that's something that maybe we get to circle back to in the future. I know when I came in, we were finishing up, I can't remember the name of it. I remember Big Rocks. That's horrible. Anyway.
Paleo Quest?
Yeah. That
I was like,
maybe.
what would you potentially have big rocks hurled to you in? I'm like, Paleo Quest, maybe. Well, I mean, also Linden Realms has, the
It's Linden Realms.
rock
That's the one that I came in on. I remember
got
a
it.
swamp, and I remember a desert and a bus, and taking pictures of these things. That's what I remember, and doing tests, stress tests to see how many people. Yes.
Well,
so,
and most of those games are still there.
Yes, they are,
You
and
play them through the Portal Park.
Yes. So if you don't know what we're talking about, if you haven't had a chance to play the different games that the moles have created in the past, definitely visit the Portal Park so you can check out Linden Realms and Paleo Quest, because they really are a lot of fun to play. And I was
gonna say, I think one of the kind of the really neat aspects too that I think folks sometimes miss is the fact that we actually have linked them all together with a timeline or story based narrative, right, between each of them. And so we actually created fairly elaborate machinima videos and such that the team worked on putting together with scripts and everything, characters. It almost flowed almost episodically from game experience to game experience. And so it's a lot of fun sometimes to go back and even watch the videos about the games and how they've progressed over time, or how they progressed over time from one to the next and the story that was told to link them together. It was a lot of fun.
Where can we find that video?
Videos, plural. There's actually a good handful of them, and they are on the Second Life YouTube channel.
All right. So that's everybody's homework when we're done with Meet the Moles today. You can all go check out the Second Life YouTube channel and see some of these game videos. So let's wrap up. We're over an hour, so we're going to wrap up with some just fun questions, more personal questions, kind of like what we started out with. What is the quirkiest or most unexpected thing a resident has ever said to you about your work? And I'm going to start with Bree.
Oh my. Well, my answer definitely falls into the unexpected category, and it's actually happened a couple of times now. As moles, we're often asked to present at events or engage with residents, and I really enjoy that part of the role, and I think it's important because it keeps us connected and grounded and helps us see how our work is actually being received. So whether it's a Relay for Life fundraiser or a Second Life birthday or a snowball fight in the winter or a Bellissima event, we're out there interacting. And on 2 separate occasions on these kinds of events, I have been proposed to. Sort of out of the blue from people that I did not know, or at least I don't know that I knew them if I did. And I have to say that I tend to shy away from weddings in Second Life. I'm happily married in my first life, but I will say that it was both times a very sweet surprise, but definitely something I never expected to encounter as part of being a mole in Second Life.
I've never heard that before, so...
I don't tend to share it because it's a little awkward, so... It sort of makes me giggle and blush, and at the same time, it renders me speechless, and that's kind of hard to do.
Very flattering. It's very flattering. And sweet.
Yes.
So my one question would be, were the people who proposed to you, were they over a day old?
Oh, yeah. It's interesting because that actually is the one thing I checked. And they were people who had been around for quite some time, and they were actually, people who were actively part in both cases of the Relay for Life group, and like I said, I was a little flabbergasted, and it was so unexpected. But I think that's part of what makes Second Life interesting, is that you really never know what you're going to encounter. And listen, I've encountered some stuff that's not so sweet as well, but here today I'd rather talk about the sweet stuff.
Yes, I agree with you. It's the birthday. We're supposed to be happy and celebrate.
Absolutely.
Alada, I think that you had a story that you wanted to share.
Well, yeah, you think this is kind of funny because after being 7 years in here, you go through different departments of this. So, I've been getting sometimes messages of people like reminding me of stuff that I didn't even remember I did. Like either leaving some Easter egg in the old Belisaria regions, or some flower arrangements, or them being very happy about the front of the parcels. But then it's like even the community parts, because we used to do like a smaller community things, and them being very happy about it. But I didn't even remember, honestly, that I did them, because that was like 4 years ago or something. And they will be like so excited. I was like, and then I had to actually like go back and think and be like, wait, I did that? When I did that? You know, it's like yeah.
Well, see, you have made your mark, Alada. You and people are still finding things and being like, "That's the coolest thing ever."
Yeah, like I'm happy for them, but it was like I had to backtrack. You know, I was like, wait. It was like, no, that's true. I did it.
All right, so let's end on how this question is really for anybody who wants to answer it. How do you unwind or stay inspired creatively, either in world or offline? I mean, Second Life is now your job. So you're here and you're doing things that, you know, hopefully you really enjoy, but still it's a job. So how does that affect your Second Life? I mean, do you still hang out in Second Life and do things in Second Life to kind of inspire yourself and unwind, or do you find yourself doing more things in other environments? So, Alada, you were talking. I'll just let you go on with that one. What do you do for fun?
Well, I think it's good also to give. I mean, like, I also use Second Life as a resident, it's not just as a mole, right? So I do like to like explore Second Life, see what is happening, like kind of like keep up to date to what is happening out there. But then I also sometimes like to try some stuff out, because I think it's good to see like new games, new ways to like impulse that creativity, that you see something that can inspire you to then go back to Second Life and try to do your own version of something. So yeah, I think it's just that. Sometimes I just like gaming a lot, to be honest. And there's sometimes that you just want to kill a bunch of zombies, maybe.
Yeah.
After a hard day of work, you just go kill a bunch of zombies. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody who hasn't done that really understands how cathartic it is.
Yes. It is. It is.
Itza, what do you do to unwind and stay inspired creatively?
To unwind, I'm just couch hanging and watching Netflix. But having said that, creativity-wise, I still love all my residents to decorate my own parcel, other projects. I'm always happy. It's like I can only explain it as like it's a drug. I just love decorating. So that's somehow it's for me, even while I'm working, very relaxing. So I don't get to do it much on my resident as much as I would like to. But yeah, it's decorating.
Well, then you have the perfect mole job, don't you?
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. This is my dream job. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I know that the deco team did a wonderful job decorating around the stage regions. But I know that one thing that you focused on particularly were the flower gardens at the Royal Keep, and they're gorgeous, and you did a really beautiful job. You look like you tended them by hand.
I did one by one.
Star, what do you like to do to unwind or stay inspired?
I like to get away from the computer, actually. And I like to do yoga. And I like to be in the countryside, music. And yeah, mostly out in the countryside. That keeps me, and the nature is such an inspiration. So,
Well, so you're two birds, one stone. You're being creatively inspired, and you're getting out and stretching your legs and re-energizing yourself.
absolutely.
Bree, what about you? What do you like to do?
I'll piggyback on what Star said. Sometimes I think that to maintain those creative juices, it's important to step away. And so for me, sometimes that means getting out and doing something in nature. Sometimes it's just meeting a friend for brunch at a great restaurant. And sometimes I enjoy taking classes. I take, lately I've been taking a lot of film classes. So I took a film class on the superhero genre, and a fantasy film class. And this fall, I'm going to be taking one that's all about AI in film. And I think just sort of keeping your mind open to different thoughts helps you when you do come back to a project, come back with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, sometimes you just really, you need to be able to step away, not just when you're kind of up against a wall and you can't quite figure it out, but even when you're really happy with what you're doing, sometimes just taking that time away and coming back and looking at it with fresh eyes, you're like, oh, wow, I could add this and it would be even better than it already is.
Exactly. And then I guess the one other thing that I don't want to overlook is that turning to my fellow moles, my team members, is also a really great source of inspiration. And whether it's looking at something that someone has created, frankly, with awe, because there are people here who can do things that I just can't do, or if I'm needing to brainstorm with someone, turning to my fellow moles for that brainstorming opportunity. Those are also things that really help keep me fresh and inspired.
All right. Well, Abner, what about you? What
Yes.
do you do for fun?
Well, I think I mentioned before I was kind of playing games before, like a lot of flight simulators, a lot of driving games, and what I like to do sometimes is, and I still play those, but sometimes I'll, just explore around SL with airplanes, cars, boats, trains, whatever, and I'll, decorate my Linden home and all of those things, and explore around, all around Second Life, and I do that partially to unwind and also to get inspiration by seeing things other people have made. And I also think that it's very important that we as moles have that quote unquote the resident experience, so that we can, we understand the trials and tribulations of the people that we're making things for. I think that's extremely important, that that we can identify with. So when people say, oh, I don't like this, or I like this, and kind of anticipate their needs, wants, and desires.
A case in point is I know that there are moles that have Linden homes on their residence. And that has to, I mean, that's a good experience because they're actually living in the community. They're using the houses. They're dealing with their neighbors. And so you have, because you're in the environment that you've built,
Exactly.
you know, some of the things that residents are going to come up against.
Right. Exactly. So I just think that's really important. And without naming names, I know at least one of our moles will purposefully sort of play Game of Homes just to get different houses and look around and go, okay, what don't I like about this? And make a mental note of that so that when we're building more, we're keeping those things in mind.
Well, and I do think that you have, I mean, even though you're the same person, when you're looking at it as a mole who is building it, and you're looking at it as a resident who is inhabiting a Linden home, you look at it differently.
You do. And we always try to keep that when we're building these things. We're trying to keep the perspective of the person who is going to be use it in our minds. And in fact, we would have our deco teams. We would even say, hey, stand inside the parcel and look out. And what do you see? Because that's what they are going to be seeing 98% of the time. Yep. And if that looks good, then we're good.
All right. Well, Patch, Izzy, would you like to say anything else? I want to give you that opportunity. Squeaky is going to attempt to tell us his origin story here before we go, but before we do that, Izzy, Patch, either one of you have some final words to say here today?
Sure, I'll be real quick because I want to hear Squeaky's origin story. Just kind of playing off of what you were just asking, and very similar to what Abner said. When I'm bogged down with work and things seem a little bit overwhelming, as of course things do from day to day, the way I kind of reset is I spend a little bit of time walking around the mainland. And I always find myself spotting something new. One of the last times I did so, I found like a perfect replica of a Wendy's restaurant, but in like a 70s kind of a mode, and with working soda fountains and all that kind of stuff. And it just amazes me, what we do and what we create within Second Life, and that just kind of reminds me why I'm here in a family of creativity, whether that be a mole, a Linden, a resident. We're all building this world together, and that just kind of helps me get back out of my head and back into my heart and back to work.
Well, I think that you really touched on something, both you and Abner. It's wonderful to just be able to get out into Second Life and be a resident and, have a Linden home and go to events, go to Relay Weekend, go and listen to DJs at the birthday, to just experience it like we used to before we were moles or Lindens, or remember the good old days. Because, there was a reason that I came to Second Life, and I stayed because I enjoyed it. And, I still enjoy it. Patch, I just want to give you a chance to say some final words if you want to, and then I'm going to jump to Squeaky and let him test his mic out. He has a couple of different plans, and so we will all hold our breath, and if plan A doesn't work, plan B hopefully will. But first, there you go, Pat.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you for being here and making Second Life what it is. Thank you to everyone involved with this wonderful annual thing we put together called SLB, and all of the efforts by all of the teams of folks and volunteers involved in pulling it off with great success every year. And thank you, of course, to my team, the moles, every one of you. You make it all possible.
Well, I will say a collective thank you, Patch. I will speak for all the moles. Thank you very much. It is a real pleasure and honor being able to be part of the Linden Department of Public Works. And I personally am very, very happy to be able to say that I am a mole and to be able to work with Squeaky organizing this wonderful birthday and being a part of the community that comes together to celebrate. So hopefully now I've given Squeaky enough time and his microphone will work. So everybody cross your fingers. Who hears Squeaky? Okay, he has one more thing to try. See, he really is trying to connect with all of us here today. But the third time, hopefully the charm. And I can't say that this is a strong suit of mine, just speaking.
All right. This one should
All right.
be working.
Now can we hear Squeaky?
Downside is I'm going to hear myself, and it's going to confuse myself.
That's very hard to do.
There we go. I think we were hearing it. I did not want to go this solution because I said
Okay,
I hear myself.
Squeaky,
And it's
one
confusing.
One thing I will tell you, if you're hearing yourself through your headphones, take the headphones off and just speak into the microphone. It might help with some of that.
I'm going to basically not hear you, but that will be okay. Okay, well, all the pressure's on now. Everyone's been waiting. Yes. Let me see. Ask me the question one more time at the start so we know what I'm answering.
Squeaky is now going to tell us how he found Second Life and got interested and decided to stay. And because
Right.
he can't hear me.
I did hear you. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't miss you. Yes, so the reason I wanted to jump in is because it's actually a very long story and we don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna make this very short. It's been a while since I told this. Some of you already know. I actually started Second Life about 15 years ago. The reason why, well, it's actually very simple. It's no lie. I'm like autistic, and I have a lot of socialization issues in real life, at least back in the day. And when I heard of Second Life, it was one of those, I can do stuff where doesn't really, people don't really recognize and know who you are, and it doesn't really matter that much if you're afraid of people. The anti-social thing, I'm sure we all understand it. But even that was very hard. I like the exploration part, I like the building, so I started building a few things. I started building, I was inspired by store. In fact, for years before I even met Second Life at school, I always was obsessed with owning my own store, and I didn't know that was possible yet. But once I realized it in Second Life, I started a little bit of a store, usual, to build some blocks, make some shirts, and that was like on my first week. And then someone messaged me, "Your stuff sucks." Wow. That hurt. That hurt so much. And I was ready to give up. Someone turned around though and messaged me, "Don't give up." So I listened to that and I didn't give up. Continued on. I found friends, and 2 years went by, and I started joining other communities, found more friends, more stories like mine, more stories like everyone else. As probably 8 years passed by over all of this. Personality has changed after that because I'd never talked to anyone before really in real life, and I really found a way to be able to talk to people here. And that turned into doing events. And those events, I joined in to have fun. Turned out, after a few years, even though I was the shy person that really still was pretty uncomfortable in large groups, people really liked me, invited me, and wanted me to join in with them and their events. So I did. Then I very quickly grew into something I never expected. People wanted me to hold the events because they liked, my organization stuff. They liked how I guess, listened to people, which is something I wasn't expecting for myself. But people really appreciated who I was. And over the years, I started changing. I then realized I was now in the seat that they were for me when I started. The person that reaches out to people when they're in need. From there on, I started dedicating it to that. I've on many of the larger events to host just for the purpose to make others, happy, or to give them a place to be. And after a few years, I had devastating real life events where things basically fell apart. Things felt like it all started over again. I was ready to give up. I joined SLB because, well, why not? One more chance. Just be there. Build what I always liked. That was my only purpose. Oh, I built my exhibit. I got a lot of attraction. And I started kind of getting better, but I was still not really there. And I guess people recognized me while building my exhibit. The stage crew actually reached out to me because they liked talking to me while I was building on the spot. And it helped me become a stage crew, actually. And from stage crew, very quickly, I started helping out very closely and became a stage manager, basically within the week. I don't think she minds saying, because you said it before, it was actually Itza who helped me become a stage manager. And from there, it just changed rapidly. I helped with SLB. I met Patch. I messaged Patch with a few questions I had for the stages. We started talking. Once we started talking, I showed him my exhibit. I showed my exhibit, which was based on my game that I made. And he liked it. I guess showed the other moles, because only one day, like 20 different moles showed up on my region. And I was panicking. Didn't know why. Didn't know what. Everyone was suddenly there. And basically from there on, I got offered a position to be a mole. And I've joined in. Main reason? Very simple. The offer was offered to me on day one. And I think, just like Ebner said, and everyone else, it's very important for us to remember where we all came from and why we do this for people. And also very important to remember for you, even if you're in a bad position now, things can turn around. Just keep trying. And I think with that, give it back to Mizzy.
Thank you, Squeaky. I had not heard that story before, and I'm really glad that you shared it because you're right. I think that is the perfect way for us to end this Meet the Moles event. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, moles, for being here and being part of the LDPW. Thank you to the community for everybody being here and listening to us and supporting us and being a part of the birthday and a part of Second Life for the past 22 years. Even if you're just 22 minutes old, you have joined a legacy now. I just want to remind people that things are up and running through the weekend. Lots of performances going on here and at the Royal Keep and over in Odin's Bar and Grill. And the observatory, which is inside. The exhibits, 250 exhibits to explore. The Shop and Hop is going strong, and just get out there and have fun and enjoy yourselves. All right. Thank you, everybody. It has been such a pleasure being here with you, and we'll see you next year. Happy Second Life birthday. 22.